Now let's look at what's happening in the UK. There are just hours to go for the British general election and the candidates are holding their last campaigns. They're doing their best to get those final undecided voters. And as for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, he's doing his best to soften the blow that's expected to come. For months now, opinion polls have been saying that Sunak is on his way out. He leads the Conservative Party or the Tories. They have been in power for 14 years. And the British public seems to have had enough. Opinion polls have on average put the Tories 20 points behind their biggest rivals. That's the Labour Party. Now the Labour Party's lead has shrunk in recent weeks, but they're still miles ahead of the Tories. They were a full 17 points up last week. That should translate into a landslide for Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader. So unless a miracle takes place, Rishi Sunak will most likely be leaving 10 Downing Street. But of course, it's never over till the final whistle. And while in search of a miracle, Sunak decided to ask an old Tory stalwart for help.
How grateful I am to all of you for everything that you've been doing over the last few weeks and for coming so late tonight to this venue, way past Keir Starmer's bedtime. If you are slightly surprised to see me, if you're slightly surprised, I want to be absolutely clear that I was glad when Rishi asked me to help. Of course, I couldn't say no.
Sunak rang up his old boss Boris Johnson, who stepped in to try and charge up the Tory supporters. Now, Johnson is the UK's former Prime Minister. He's a controversial figure, and that's putting it mildly. He's now infamous for Partygate. Boris Johnson hosted parties at 10 Downing Street, and he did so during COVID lockdowns. He violated the strict social distancing laws that his own government had put in place. Ordinary people could not go out and meet their dying relatives, but Boris and the gang were partying in the Prime Minister's office. So you can imagine the public's anger when word of these parties got out. And pictures. Boris Johnson was removed from office in disgrace. Sunak was his chancellor then, like his finance minister. He was among those who helped oust Boris. He was accused of betraying the Prime Minister, and now he's called him up asking for help because Boris Johnson still remains popular in certain Tory circles.
Isn't it great to have our Conservative family united, my friends?
Yeah! Will this belated reconciliation between Boris and Sunak help turn the tide? Probably not. But that did not stop Boris Johnson from giving it his best shot.
5 years ago, you helped to send Jeremy Corbyn and his then disciple, Keir Starmer, into orbit where they belonged, and we got Brexit done. We restored. Labour are so cocky that they're so complacent, they're so smug, they're barely concealing their agenda anymore. And we can see what it is.
Boris Johnson launched an attack on the Labour Party's agenda. The Conservatives claim that Labour are planning to raise taxes and not do anything about a burning issue in the UK, which is illegal immigration. The Conservatives are sticking to their main plan, that is sending people to Rwanda. Rishi Sunak says that if he's back in 10 Downing Street on Friday, he will do everything possible to start the Rwanda flights. Labour will not be doing this. They will take a different approach. Their leader, Keir Starmer, has not exactly spelled out his plan, but he may not feel the need to do so. After all, he seems to be cruising towards victory. So let's look at another question. What would Keir Starmer's victory mean for India? Historically, the Labour Party used to be the preferred choice for Indian origin people in the UK, and therefore it had good ties with the government of India. But this changed under Starmer's predecessor. That was Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn had a controversial take on the issue of Kashmir, and he was perceived to be against India's democratically elected government. So if Jeremy Corbyn was to win an election, Anglo-Indian ties would have suffered. But Keir Starmer is not Jeremy Corbyn. He has tried to rebuild Labour's relationship with the Indian community. He is also fielding a number of Indian origin candidates during this election. In fact, every British political party is doing this. They all know how important British Indian votes are. One candidate even brought a dash of Bollywood to their campaign. Shilpa Shetty is campaigning in Leicester East. It just shows how influential Indians can be in the UK. And Labour knows this too. It says it will focus on issues important to British Indians. Keir Starmer could also revive ties with the Indian government if he comes to power. And that is good news for cooperation between New Delhi and London. He may not be as overtly pro-India as Rishi Sunak, but Keir Starmer understands the importance of good relations with the world's fifth largest economy. So irrespective of who comes to power, the India-UK relationship should stay intact. On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
We'll start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. For the first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital.